Hello everyone, and welcome to Noodle Journey, your destination for detailed and informative reviews of the instant noodle universe. Today I'm reviewing the second of Ramen Bae's new products from April 2024. This is their dried Enoki mushroom pack. Before we get into the review, please remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so I can keep doing these in-depth reviews. Now this is a cool concept for a product. Enoki mushrooms are these super thin mushrooms that you sometimes find in Asian soups and salads. They're intended to give you this delicate crunch in whatever you put them in, and they have a very mild mushroom flavor compared to other species. Now the problem with Enoki mushrooms for me, and maybe for you watching as well, is that there is only one store in a half-hour drive from me that sells Enoki mushrooms. And so I cook with them pretty sparingly since that particular Asian market isn't somewhere I go frequently. And like all mushrooms, they might last up to 2 weeks in your fridge when they're fresh, but are more likely to start getting iffy after a week. And so here is Ramen Bae to the rescue again with a shelf-stable pack of dried Enoki mushrooms that should last you well over a year before expiring. This just came out on April 23rd and is currently selling for $7.49 on their website. This is a 3-ounce bag, which may make the price tag seem a little bit much, but you can see that there's quite a bit of mushrooms that you get in here. And prior to dehydration, this probably weighed a lot more since mushrooms have a lot of water weight to them. You're also only going to be using a small cluster at a time when you cook with these, and the rehydration process adds weight back, so I think $7.49 is an alright price. For comparison, a fresh bundle of Enoki mushrooms costs $4 at that Asian market I was just talking about, and that contains a smaller quantity of mushrooms than this, and will also go bad within 14 days. Now, because the cooking process has an extra couple steps compared to Ramen Bae's other products, let me show you what's in this bag and how you're going to prepare them. Okay, so per Ramen Bae's instructions, you're going to grab a bundle of these out of here. And I can already tell you that's not easy because if I'm grabbing a small bundle of these, the entire pack wants to come out. So, all right. Alright, so I got maybe 3 decently sized little bundles of mushrooms out of here, and this should be more than enough of a portion size for me. I don't need my bowl to be covered with these, I just want an occasional bite with my noodles. Now normally, with Ramen Bae products, you just toss these in boiling water for 3 minutes with your noodles and you're done. With these, you're going to want to rinse them off first. I'll go do that right now. Now I've got a plate of damp mushrooms, so what you have to do at this point is peel them apart. Down here, it's a little woody. They're all bunched together. You want this separated as much as you can. All right, and now I've got a plate full of damp and reasonably separated mushrooms. You could probably just chop off this little bit at the bottom if you want to play it really safe, but Ramen Bae doesn't say you have to do that, so I'm going to assume that they will rehydrate to the point where the tough bottom part is not going to be an issue. Alright, so now is usually the point in the Ramen Bae reviews where I say how you can use these, or how I'm going to use them. Well, they're mushrooms. You can put mushrooms in like 99% of the instant noodle products on the market, and it would go great. The 1% these wouldn't work in would be the more gimmicky stuff like cup noodles breakfast or everything bagel. But speaking of cup noodles, there's another thing to consider with these. They may not easily steep in a cup product because of their length. So if you do want to add these to a cup product, you might have to boil them separately for 3 minutes and then add them to your cup at the end, depending on how much space is in there. So we've already seen between the washing, peeling, and that part that this is not as convenient as other Ramen Bae products, but that's just the nature of Enoki mushrooms. Now with all that in mind, I have debated about how best to review these, like what should I put these in so that they shine. Ramen Bae has been pushing these as a perfect companion product to their kimchi mix, which I reviewed earlier and is excellent. So that suggested pairing with kimchi made me lean in the direction of trying these mushrooms for the first time with a Korean soup. And the ultimate Korean mushroom soup is Nangshim Shin Green. Yeah, we're going to give these mushrooms a whirl in Shin Green, which is one of the best vegan instant noodle varieties you can buy, in my opinion. If you're more of a fan of Shin Black, or maybe wanted to throw these into a Japanese tonkotsu or a Chinese-style beef soup, those would also be excellent pairing ideas. But with Shin Green, we've got a creamy mushroom broth with softer shiitake mushrooms already in the mix, so this will hopefully add a little more mushroom flavor and a nice textural contrast to the other ingredients. And like I said, a couple scoops of the Ramen Bae kimchi mix because of their pairing recommendation. So I'm going to go cook these enoki mushrooms with these noodles and this kimchi mix, and I'll be right back. Okay, and here we go. I managed to keep the mushrooms right on top, and they seem to have rehydrated fully. They seem nice and tender. And I've got all this in my broth and all this left in the bag. So, like I always say, a little Ramen Bae goes a long way. So this is a good amount of enoki mushrooms for this amount of noodles, in my opinion, but you can add however much you want. So let me give this a taste, both with some noodles and mushrooms mixed together, some of the kimchi mix, and some mushrooms all on their own. Okay, so what I'm looking for here in this review is two key elements. One, do these mushrooms impart a nice new texture to my noodles? And two, do they taste all right? So the answer is yes to both questions, with some minor caveats. Picking these up with some noodles does add a pleasant little crunch to each bite, but the flavor is super, super mild. It is unmistakably mushroom, but it's almost on the sweet side of mushroom flavor. The earthy umami that you expect out of mushrooms is not as pronounced in enoki mushrooms as it is in something like a portobello mushroom or even these giant chunks of shiitake mushroom that come with the kimchi mix. Now, that makes enoki mushrooms pretty versatile as far as mushrooms go, but if you're a mushroom fanatic, you may crave more mushroom flavor than what these have to offer. That's just the nature of the species. So all that leads into my two complaints. One being that compared to the other mushroom varieties that Ramen Bae uses, enoki mushrooms just aren't as flavorful. They might not scratch that mushroom itch you're looking for, and they're so thin that some people really might not like this texture. And then the second complaint is that the extra steps of washing, separating these is not as convenient as Ramen Bae's other products. So that doesn't mean that this isn't a competently made product if this is what you want, but I think it's only fair that I give these a 7.5 out of 10 as an overall score. It's a good concept for a product. It's got an interesting texture, a mild flavor, but there's just a couple of minor things that keep it from being a better score for me. And there we go, another decent Ramen Bae product. Just has a couple of little flaws. If you like enoki mushrooms and you prefer them to stronger flavored mushrooms and you don't mind the prep work that these need, maybe these are a 10 out of 10 for you. Their milder flavor means that you're not going to drastically skew the taste of milder soups like chicken or dashi or shio, which may be what you're after, but personally I like my mushroom flavor a little bit stronger. Not to say I'd never buy these again, I certainly will, but I would be much more interested in a bag of, say, woodier mushrooms, or a mixed mushroom bag with a variety of species in it would be cool too. And Ramen Bae, feel free to use those ideas if you're watching this. So if you end up buying this, leave me some comments and let me know what you paired these enoki mushrooms with. I'd love to hear about your experiences. And let Ramen Bae know too, because they listen and respond to customer feedback on their social media accounts. I'll be on the lookout for the next products Ramen Bae drops, and of course I'll be back for more noodle reviews next time, so please join me here again on Noodle Journey.